What's up? What's up, people?
Yo, welcome to another episode of Million Views Podcast, man. It's your host Wilson Mills, man. Welcome to M1 Studios, man. We got one today, brothers. This a big one right here. You feel what I'm saying? This one been actually a couple of years in the making. Salute to the Young Santa band, you know what I'm saying, in the background. But we got the man himself, you know what I'm saying, Mr. Auburn Koke. Auburn Koke go come through and bless us with parts of his story. We're gonna call this part one, and I'm gonna let this man take it from there. You feel me?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. So my name's Auburn Koke. Like I just ran into y'all and everything. I was born in Providence, Rhode Island. That's up north. And my mom, she was an entertainer. She from New Orleans. She was an entertainer all her life. Little girl traveling 15, 16 years old. During the time of segregation and all of that. In New Orleans, she used to sing on Bourbon Street. And with different bands, Baptiste Brothers, a lot of the famous people everybody already know about. But
Chitlin
making
the
long
Chitlin
story
Circus
short,
era, right?
huh?
Right now, you speaking of the Chitlin Circuit era, right?
Oh yeah. Back in the day during the time of segregation, one of them was 1964. A lot of people need to know that. Segregation wasn't really too far. From slavery you know, and 50 something years from now, like 57, 58 years ago, like
Facts.
that. But, like I said, I was born in Providence, Rhode Island and raised in New Orleans. So my mama brought me from Rhode Island when I was 2 months old to New Orleans. So New Orleans, you might as well say I wasn't born there, but I was, been raised there all my life. And, pretty much, raised in the Ninth Ward, Desalon, Dauphine, Royal Street, Royal, Burgundy, if you're from New Orleans, you can already relate because most people who live in New Orleans, they live everywhere. We lived uptown, downtown. I went to back in the '70s, George Washington Elementary School,
Mm.
across the street from Nichols. They probably changed the name of the schools, because it's
Oh,
been
they have
like,
changed a lot of them, yeah.
yeah, it's been, 30 something, 40 years since I've been out of school. I went to school in the Fifth Ward at McDonald 28.
Okay.
I went to McDonald 31. I want to say we moved in the Fifth Ward like around 1979. Come on, Senator Bank. We on TV, bro. You gotta respect. Yeah, around 1979 when we moved in the Fifth Ward, and went to school. McDonald 31 Elementary School. I think I won't say like my, fourth, fifth grade year, something like that. Fifth and sixth grade year.
Okay.
And yeah, so from McDonald 31 went to McDonald 28, a junior high. And that's on Esplanade Street. And then, 31 was on Rendon, and then right up the street from McDonald 28. I went to John McDonald Senior High, and uptown. So then, from uptown to downtown, like I said, most families that are poor, you might be moving the east for a little while, move here, move there, Back then, we were real poor, so we used to move a lot, Um, my grandmother lived in East Shore Village, Back then in the early '70s, it was only three streets really. Well, yeah, well, it was three streets. Actually, it was Kingsport, uh, Shorewood, and Avon. So people, those who from out the east, if you're in your 50s, your 60s, you can remember it was only three streets back then. And then they kind of built up because it was like mostly wooded areas. We're
Correct.
talking like around 73, 74, like that, And we used to walk through the woods and go to Lincoln Beach, hop the gate, hop the wall, go to Lincoln Beach. And, Lincoln Beach was popular back in the early 50s and in the 60s and the 40s and the early 40s and stuff like that. It used to be where mostly white people used to go. Black people wasn't allowed back there back then, They was allowed to an extent, but it was during the time of segregation when black people couldn't go in white people bedrooms and stuff like that, couldn't eat at the same table, I think it's important to start it off talking about the past, because it's a lot of things that young black people really don't know about, and I just feel like people our age don't talk about it enough, and I feel like we should talk about the past, because of course it's important to talk about it so that the young people can understand where they come from,
Thanks.
Before I go any further, also I want to say I can't never forget or stop thanking the Prophet Muhammad, Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King, and Minister Farrakhan. It's always important to bring these people up, because they fought for a lot for us during segregation.
That's a fact.
And the reason why, another thing why I want to talk about this before I get into who I am and where I started and where I come from, because I remember, man, like we used to walk through the woods, like I said, be out there by my grandmother in the east. I used to catch the bus from Royal Street, catch the St. Claude, get off that St. Claude, get on that Franklin, ride the Franklin to the Haynes. Ride the Haynes all the way to the back, Back then they had a little joint on the corner that used to be called Bodaggers, Is where white people used to hang out, a bunch of white people and shit like that, And I remember like walking through the woods and shit. When we get to Haynes Boulevard, man, they have a bunch of white people in the car. They'll pass us and say, "Nigga," spit on us and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
So, and this, we talking like around 75, 74, 75, like that, And all of this here, like, when you're going into the history of rap, I feel like a lot of this is important, because a lot of people, like, they'll talk about the history of rap, and they'll start with the Sugar Hill Gang.
Right.
And, from New York. And what I be wanting to say all the time, that it's important that young people understand that rap go all the way back to when black people first started talking English good.
Thanks.
You know what I'm saying? If you go back in history, you'll see in 1930, in the 30s, 1930, they used to rap.
Yeah, I did that research.
Break dance and everything, you know what I'm saying? Mama, like back in the 70s and stuff, early 70s, 73, 74. Like I said, she played in bands with different bands, Alan Toussaint, God rest his soul, he passed away, Mr. Alan Toussaint, the Neville brothers, Baptiste brothers, all these people who are famous today, back then, they during the time when it was tough, they used to gig and perform on Bourbon Street, and, before they took off and got big and stuff like that,
Facts. The Baptiste from my neighborhood. Well, lived in my neighborhood. I don't know if they're actually from here, but they lived in my neighborhood all my life. Yeah, and
the Baptiste brothers, a couple of the brothers played an important role in my, being involved in the music business, because, they taught me in school. They taught me in music class.
Oh, okay.
John McDonald, And by the way, I was one of them kids that, I started school when I was about 8 years old. Okay. Most kids start like 5 years old, like that.
Yeah.
But the reason why I started, because around 72, 73, I had a medical plate installed in my skull. You know what I'm saying? So due to the injury, I had a sensitive skull, so they didn't really want me in school.
Okay.
But when I started school, it was a funny thing. I started in the first grade. So I was the biggest kid in the class. So I was like 2 years, 2 years or 3 years behind in school.
Fake.
But the thing about it was, I wasn't really a dumb kid or nothing. I was just special. You know what I'm saying? When I say special, I mean not as in retarded or ignorant or dumb or nothing like that.
Right.
It was just that I just tend to, for some reason, bro, I just was able to get away with a lot of things that the average kids couldn't get away with in school.
Right.
Because the teachers, they took, I guess they took
They took exception to you because of your condition.
because of the condition, exactly, So I used that to my advantage too, So when I got to high school, I went to 7th grade. I wanted to play football, and because of the injury, they wouldn't let me play football. But I would always hide the fact of the injury. You know what I'm saying? So in 7th grade, I want to say when I went to the 8th grade, I think first of all, I wasn't even advanced enough to even pass the 8th grade anyway. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't like a small kid in school.
Okay.
At the time, because I wasn't really paying attention. I was more like dazing off and daydreaming most of the time. But I wanted to play football, and because I wanted to play that so bad, I showed more interest, towards school. So I went to the principal. I'll never forget. I think his name was Ly was he was at John Mack, Mr. Green. One of the principals, I think it was 28, and I told him, I said, yeah, Mr. Green, I said, I need to talk to you. He said, yeah. He said, Connie, what's going on? What's wrong? He said, you all right? I said, not really. He said, well, what the problem is? I said, Mr. Green, I said, I'm 2 years old. I'm too old to play football. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like 13 or something like that, 14 in a 7th grade. And I said, it's embarrassing, for me to say this, that I started school late, and I would like to play football. He said, well, he said, I don't know what you suggest we do about this. I said, if you could skip me to the 9th grade, I'm gonna guarantee you, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna hit the books, and I'm gonna get my scores up. You know what I'm saying? So he looked at me. He said, man, he said, he started laughing. I'll never forget it. And then he said, let me think about it, So the next day, man, they come to the class, you know what I'm saying? And back then, I think I was in my 8th grade teacher class. I'll never forget this, man. He was a black man, but he was teaching us Greek and stuff like that, He teach alphabet, gamma, and all of that, And he was real educated dude. He was like a smooth criminal, you know what I'm saying? Like he was like one of the pretty boy teachers, and they had a lot of sexy, beautiful school teachers,
Okay.
At McDonald 31 and meant to say McDonald 28, and all of them was kind of digging him back then, So right. He used to kind of tell me, he said, Connie, he said, like, I'm gonna need you to pay attention, man, to what's going on. He's gonna learn a lot of things. He was dazing off, but he was cool, So then I think it was Mr. Green. He come to the class. He was like, get your stuff, He said, come on, you're going to another class. I'm like, yeah. So I get my little books and everything. So they dropped me off in the 9th grade, you know what I'm saying? So when I got to the 9th grade, I had the size and everything. Of course, I was already 2 years, And back then, I think it was George Dolphin and Darryl Landry. Yeah, that's Darryl Landry was a quarterback, And if anybody like this hand was going on about this dude right here, Darryl Landry, had got killed at John Mack on the schoolyard. Dude that shot him, some foolishness and killed him.
You said that was the high school quarterback?
Yeah, that was a high school quarterback. And this dude here he was left-handed, and he was guaranteed to go to pro, bro. When I tell you this,
like
dude, man, bro, he was slinging the ball back then like a grown man, bro. When I tell you, bro, putting it on the money. And then my other little partner, George Dolphin, he was tall. He had the height. And man, when I tell you, bro, them two dudes right there, I couldn't tell you who was the coldest. You know how you can have two people that's cold at something, and it's just hard to debate like which one the best.
Right.
Man, that boy George had the height. Darryl, you know, he just had that arm. He wasn't as tall as George, but he had the arm. And you know, unfortunately, George Dolphin, he ended up getting killed too. You know, and you know, back then, you